give you the, I guess, piece of disclaimer to this that have to take a slightly different approach into this portion. And I will need a bit of class participation, if you will. But we'll be, I guess we'll be in number 2, continuation of number 1, if you will. We'll be Exodus chapter 20, and we'll begin in verse number 4. And that's where we're going to be, to at least give you the topic of what we're going to have, that there shall be no other gods before me, and thou shalt not make thee any graven image. We'll save the other one for next week. Had considered doing these together. Had actually studied to do these together. Had actually even studied to do covetous with number 1 and doing those together, but that's not the way I feel permitted to do these, so we'll have to do them a little bit different than I intended. Probably a little slower, maybe a little more methodical in our approach to it. But when you think of graven images, you give me some examples of those idols, those false gods, if you will. Buddha. That's the one that comes to most everybody's mind. Any others? Don't even have to be modern. It can be coming through the ages of ancient civilizations and other religions that have been known. Any others other than Buddha? You get into almost any civilization in and around the Middle East. It was, if you did not have an image in which you worshiped, you was of the odd bunch. They all had an image of an idol of whatever it is their god would be. You get into Egypt, again, there was tons of them. They had a god for almost anything. Some of the temples that was made, that odds are that God's children, the Israelites, helped construct, they was made to their gods. You get into Roman empires, Greek, the influence that they had tons of gods in which they worshipped. There was a god for almost anything, whether it be the sun god, rain gods. There was gods for beauty, gods for fertility, gods for this, that, the other, tons of gods. You get over here into our neck of the woods, there was for the Native American Indians that was here, they also worshipped other types of gods. They knew that there was more to life than just, existing, so they had their own gods in which they worshipped. The Mayans they had a very sophisticated, if you will, religious system, as well as, they was pretty sophisticated in and of themselves anyhow, but there's tons, and I mean tons of idols, of images that have been made. We can go through, scripturally speaking, we could find some in the Bible, we could find some that Israelites did, some of the more, you want to give me any of those that you can think of that was known in Israel in the times going through there? Any? Baal? Moloch? Any others? We could do these all night, could we not? We could look at images of a golden calf or whatever. We could have whatever it is that we wanted. But when you look at this, and again, coming through this and the approach that we're going to take, it says, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above." Pause. Angels. There are many religions that put angels in a top tier of things. They understand that they are not God, but there are many religions that do worship angels as well. You get into John's account, going through the Revelation, things that were in there, that he would bow himself down to some of these mighty angels in which he described, and they would immediately tell him, "Nope, you stand up. We are fellow servants. I am not to be worshipped." the angels would tell them that. So we have other scriptures that has been given to you and I to help us know and understand, and not to be worshiping of angels, but yet we do. I say we, people do. We have, you find very elaborate sculptures, carvings, paintings. You'll find these in lots of, you can find a lot of these in modern churches. You'll find things from there. You find them a whole lot in Catholic churches too, but you'll find it in just modern Christian churches. You'll find some elaborate painting pictures, whatever it may be, of angels. You'll find these in other religions, but you look at man, I lost it. Trying to think if it was Michael that is supposed to be the protector of law enforcement. I don't know. You find these pins and challenge coins and things that has the angel on it that's wrapped around. It's supposed to protect these. There's another angel that's supposed to be the guiding hand and the guardian of the medical profession. There's almost like an angel for anything that's supposed to be your protector, if you will. And all these things are taking place of Christ. These things are taking place of God. It may not be that we worship these angels and these images, but it's something that we have also placed in our path that we are at least giving some sort of reverence unto. Now, again, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or that is in the earth beneath. Pause. Again, going through ancient times up until even modern times in other cultures and civilizations, you will find images and statues and things that people would worship. Now, in saying that and looking at some of these things and thinking these of a practical aspect, we want to envision someone coming up to a said statue and kneeling before it and praying to it and giving that type of worship to. That's what most of us see, and that's what most of us think. It is that image, if you will. That's not, it doesn't stop there. Maybe we could say it ends there, but it doesn't start there. However it is you want to phrase it, but that's only just a drop in the bucket of ways that this happens. The images in that we have, again, that's not making thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or that is in the earth beneath or that is in the water under the earth. Getting into verse number 5, it says, thou shalt not bow thyself to them, nor serve them. Now we get into an entirely different aspect. Images of people is also an idol. Is also that false god, that graven image, if you will. Whether it be, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but stay with me. You have people that may go through like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they have like whether it be the wax figure, the bust, or whatever it may be, or the bust that they have in Canton, Ohio, in the Football Hall of Fame, things that would be that people truly give that a different type of reverence that you could say is borderline worship to those things. Other statues that have been erected in memory of people. They have a different type of reverence that they give to those, whether they would be infamous. You look at, since it's going to be coming right up here on us real quick, you go to Ground Zero up in New York, the monuments that was made that was there. There is a lot of people that go to those places, and granted it may hit really close to home with them. It may be something that is close and is personal and it's something they have extremely strong feelings for, but it's what takes place once they get there. If you look at the word worship, one of the definitions Worship, it says, the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for deity. Another, being a verb, is to show reverence and adoration, and to honor with religious rites. You look at those things in the word worship, people wind up worshiping more things than just God. And it's hard to bring out. It's hard to teach out. It's something that you really have to spend time in prayer and studying these things out on your own to really grasp and to grow the depth of this. But you look at, there is a huge difference in love and worship. People can love a place. People can love an individual. People can love, I don't like to use the word image, but be that, as it is, it's what we're talking about. You can love those things and not worship them. But on the opposite end of that aspect, we oftentimes merely act as though we are worshiping, and there's not the real love that is there for God. I need us to understand in going through this that if there is not love that is there for God, the act of worship can't happen. It is simply going through the motions and doing some of these things in which it said, thou shalt not bow thyself down to them. We may bow ourselves down to rules and to things of that nature. You go to work, there's rules, there's stipulations for this, there's consequences for this, that, the other, whatever it may be. And we won't say that we're bowing down to those, but we have to abide by them, do we not? So in some way, if you will, just to kind of grasp that for a minute, that we are again, we're not bowing down and worshiping those things, but we are yielding unto them. This says, thou shalt not bow thyself down to them, nor serve them. And again, I apologize for crawling through this, but I need you to stay with me through these things. We'll make sense of it shortly. Nor serve them, for I, the Lord, am a jealous God. You look at the service, and I want us to pause because for just a minute to make sense of some things that are really hot topics, in our culture and current society over here. And I always try to be very careful in mixing pulpit with politics, and that's not what I'm attempting to do. But I want us to understand that there is a great number of Christians that are currently worshiping a man, and a man that's not even in office, and a man that really can't do anything. They're looking to a man to be saving grace for people that is no longer even an elected official, that has no real power and control in things. I want us to understand that we have deep-rooted hatred and despise for another one based solely upon our feelings of someone else. I want us to understand that even though you look at, we may not have built altars and images of things to worship, but even the great American people that we are, and the freedom in which we have, and the deep roots of the Bible Belt and Christianity that we have in this region, we too have images and idols and things that oftentimes we will worship. We are not exempt from this. We're not like the other religious beliefs. We're not like cults and things of that nature. But we're people. We are people that have the same sin has the same effect on us, and temptation has the same effect on us that it does any other ethnic group of people. So we are not exempt from having this issue. We talked about this a few weeks ago when we was into covetous and lust and things like that. People worship beauty. People truly worship beautiful beings, beautiful people. They worship, there are people that worship music and sounds and instruments, and people who can play them and make them sound great. People worship a lot of things in manners that we don't fully grasp and understand. There are people that worship their spouse, their children. There are those that worship. You have. I have a lot of kids in my school. Probably not as many as we need to that extent, but those that are truly almost idolize and worship their grades. And these are all images of things. And there are all things that's under the sun. And when we think of that, we only our minds only typically stop at the point of erecting that statue or of building said altar, whatever it may be. Our minds generally stop there, but it's so much deeper than those things. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above. I'll flip back over to Galatians. We was there this morning and read a few verses up above it. The verses up above, I read 10 this morning. I'll read 8 and 9 this evening. It says, howbeit, then when you knew not God, you did service unto them which by nature are no gods. We understand that before coming into that contact with God and understanding our role and His role in our lives and the active servitude in which we should have and render towards Him, we truly worshiped and did service unto idols. We lived based upon our whatever our sensual desires may have been. We would no problem at all worshiping a paycheck, bank account, diamond ring. No issues at all worshiping cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles. No issues worshiping other people, our spouse. There's no issues at all with having to worship those type of things. But once we gain that knowledge of God and understand what it is that He expects of us, those things are should be going away. It says, but now after that you have known God, or rather are known of God. So not only do we now know God, but that verse there helps to clarify to you and I that God knows us. We've talked about that so many times before, that we are not just a number to Christ. We're not just a number to God. To God, we are a name. We are an individual. We are a purpose. We are a plan. We are something that belongs to Him, that He has great knowledge and investment in and of. But it says, how turn ye again to the weak and beggarly elements, whereunto ye desire again to be in bondage? Do most modern American Christians describe themselves as being in bondage? Shake your head no. Most of us do not. We don't consider ourselves to be in bondage to really anything. Do most modern American Christians consider themselves to be idolatrous? No, we really don't. How many of us would be willing to raise our hand and say we have idols in our life? We do. How many of us would honestly say that there are graven images in our life? People, places, and things that we are more intimate with than our relationship with God. Let me phrase it in that manner so maybe it can begin to sink into us. Maybe it can begin to click and connect. There are, okay, let me give you a different aspect of it. There's one right down here. There are these all over the place, and they're called cemeteries, and they're called headstones. And I assure you, people go and they kneel and they will worship for the headstones. It is an image merely of a name and a date of birth and a date of death. but we will go and we will render worship unto those images. We have a more intimate relationship with maybe that plot of ground and that headstone than we have ever had in a church house. We have more of a something moving and bowling on the inside in places like that. Maybe wherever it is that you went on your first date with your dearly beloved, that is a special place to you. Wherever it is that whatever it may be, your first car. You love those. We have tons of things that we have more of an intimate connection with than we do with God Almighty. And each and every one of these things becomes that graven image and that idol, false god that we have. Are we worshiping it? No. Not per se. Are we praying to it? No. Are we making sacrifices and offerings into it? Maybe not offerings, but I bet sometimes we sacrifice a whole lot more for things and people in our lives than we ever have, church and God. There are those that worship the physical place of the church more than they do for the God in which it stands. We are more in love with the date of whatever something's supposed to happen than the event that's going to take place. We get so wrapped up into the here and now, and we don't really think that the words that someone else used just earlier this week is this is really all we have. Because when we get to the other side, when we get to glory, it's different for you and I. The Bible says that there'll be no more marrying and giving in marriage in glory. So the only time you have with your spouse is now. The only time you have with your kids is now. The only time that you have to affect your church is now. Because when we get to glory, yes, we have got there, but at that point we're going to be praising Christ for in eternity. It's not going to be make plans for this and preparation for that, and I got to go back to work on Monday. Today's my day to go stand in the street and raise my hands and praise. That's not what heaven's going to be. We get an allotted amount of time and the opportunity that we have to praise and to worship and to serve our Savior. That being said, we spend so much the more time serving and worshiping other things. In the book of Romans, first chapter, Romans 1:21, it says, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations. I need you to hold imaginations for me. And their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and to four-footed beasts, and to creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Again, looking at these things, you can look at this in an ancient time span of something that was of long ago, or you can look at this that it is almost a picture perfect image of modern Christianity and modern Christians who, when we knew God, we glorified him not as God. Because do you know what was truly unique amongst the Jewish people and Christianity as a whole? They didn't have an image to worship. There was nothing physical for them to see. So when you look at the Israelites and worshiping God, what was they worshiping? They was worshiping the acts in which he had done for them, and they was worshiping the fact of the promises that he had made to them. But when you look to a central image or a thing or even a place, there was nothing physical that they could associate with God. You can look at the temple, the tent, the veil, the ark. All these things were simply things, and that they pertain to promises that God had made. But when again jump back into modern times with you and I, we need the physical. We need to be able to. How many of us have seen God? How many of us have felt God? So in God's presence, what are you in the presence of? It's not something physical, but you're in the presence of that feeling. You remember what that feeling was. You remember what it felt like to be saved. You remember what it felt like when the Spirit moved around you. You remember what it feels like to have the like the butterflies churning in your belly, the chill bumps on your arms. You understand how you remember what it was like that everyone in the room disappeared and it was just you, and you was so focused and involved. But there was nothing that was there. We have an altar, and it's heavy, and when you ram your toes into it or your knees, it hurts. But there's no special powers in the altar. The silver plates that we used for communion this morning, there's no magical bliss in them. There's nothing that is enchanted about them. The pulpit, hey, it's just a matching piece. It matches this, this, and this. Hey, it was a set that we got. But there's nothing special about that. We can dig through, we can find oil down in the pulpit, but there's really nothing special that's in the oil either. We could use Crisco as far as that goes, but it's the thought and the feeling and the intent and the purpose that goes there with it. And again, it's the faith. And the faith is the, I believe in Hebrews chapter 11, around verse number 6, like that faith is the evidence of things hoped, or the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. Not seen. So Christians, we don't have a chubby, bald, gold guy to pray to, do we? Or do we? Pump the brakes. Slow down with me for a minute. Somebody tell me, if you was going to give Christianity a picture, what would it be? What is one thing that almost universally is known to be associated with Christianity? Come on, dig a little deeper with me. A what? A cross. What are these? The most universally known image in the entire world, from all ages, is a cross. You see things that has a cross on them and you think automatically a Christian. They might not have anything to do with Christianity on it, but man, if you put a cross on it, you can sell it to the Christian world. You want to make a music CD and allow it to sell tons of copies? Put a cross on it. It ain't got to have anything to do with contemporary Christian music or Southern gospel or traditional hymns. None of those things. Just put the cross on there. And we as Christians, we will buy into it because we see the cross. We have an image that is truly associated with Christianity. We have an image that people think you can't have a church without a cross in it. And almost every steeple in this land, what is on top of it? Cross. Christian flag has cross on it. And it's the image thereof. The cross was merely a tool used for death. The cross just happened to be the thing that Christ died upon. if Jesus would have needed to have been crucified in a Ford Taurus, would we put a Ford Taurus up here? Stay with me. You smirk at me. Jesus died on the cross. It was simply wood. The nails that was put in his hands, there was no special power to those. And there was nothing special about the wood that was used. It was simply a device used to bring about the death of others. Had it been a gun, would we put an image of a gun up here? There was just as much went into the death of Jesus in the whip that the soldiers used, but nobody has a whip up here. Nobody has a hammer in a church house either. We don't have, you will find the images of nails in places, but the one universal thing that we have is the image of a cross. And you look at the crucifix that you mentioned, we don't like those in Christian world, do we? No, because it still shows Jesus upon the cross, and to us that is offensive because we know that he came off the cross. Not only do we know that he came off the cross, but we know that he went in the tomb. Not only do we know that he went in the tomb, but we know that he didn't stay there, that he arose. So why don't we have a rock? Why don't we have a cave back here? Why don't we have a tomb with a Roman stamp and some wax up here to allow us all to associate those things? I'm not picking on the cross. I'm not saying that crosses are evil. I'm not. I built that one. But here's the kicker. I have a thing sitting on the shelf in my office that says that I will stand for the flag and kneel before the cross. Why? Why kneel before this cross? Could somebody please tell me what good it's going to do me to kneel here? The meaning that's behind it, oh, I love the meaning behind it. But what good does it do me to kneel at that cross? All the songs that kneel at the cross. We can flip through this songbook, we'll find them, kneel at the cross. There's nothing wrong with that song. Love that song. The old rugged cross, I will cling to that. Why? Why cling to the cross? It was just a device used to bring about the death of Christ. Christ is where we should cling. We can look at the image of what we are worshiping. The thing that we are worshiping is truly something that is inside. It is that feeling that lies within us. It is something that is known to you and I. You ever seen the New Jerusalem? We haven't, have we? But we believe wholeheartedly that it's going to descend from the heavens and we're going to enter therein. We believe wholeheartedly that at the time and when Christ steps out on the clouds of glory with the trumpet, oh, there's something else. Why don't we have a trumpet in here? There is so much about trumpets within the Word of God. We need more trumpets. Said nobody ever. Because they are images and they are things. And we put all these things in front of Christ. We want to make people think that they have to kneel at the cross. If you're going to kneel at the cross, you might as well kneel at the speaker. Or you can just kneel at the altar, but there's nothing special that's happening here. It is the act thereof what you're doing and the faith that you have that comes along with it. It is simply the feeling. We can't put a face upon Jesus. The apostles know what he looked like. But you and I don't. Children of Israel couldn't worship God because they hadn't seen his face either. All they could tell you is that it was something that was going to be bright. When Moses was in the presence of God, his face shone. It was bright. It was glowing. You look at the transfiguration of Jesus upon the mount. You can associate that with brightness. That's really all we have, church. But Jesus is what we have to cling to and to worship. It's not false gods. It's not gods that we know not to worship. It's not even the most universally known image to mankind being a cross. It is the person that hanged upon the cross. There were tons of people that hung on the cross. The cross killed many people. But it was the one particular one being Jesus. And the act that he did there on the cross. That's what is important. So when you look at thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or that is in the earth beneath or that is in the water. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children of the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So now we get to more of the important parts of it. It's what we're teaching our children to worship. Are we teaching those that are coming behind us to worship images and places of things? Or are we teaching them the importance of worshiping Christ and of worshiping God? Jesus says that the time has now come for people to worship me in spirit and in truth. It doesn't say in a physical place, in a physical setting, or in a physical way. It says in spirit and in truth. And these are things that you and I can't see. Things from the inside. It says, in showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. God has shown a heap more mercy than he ever has wrath to date. The best way for you and I to worship God is to simply recall what he has done for us, what he's done for his people, and what he has promised you and I that he will do. That can bring about that love and that adoration and that hope. Far more things than a cross or images can do for you and I. Anyway, have anything in your heart before we close in this minute?